morning, everyone, and welcome to the Metro Board activities for January 11th, 2024. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us. Before we begin, I'll ask our Assistant Chief Safety and Readiness Officer, Jamie Johnson, to provide today's safety contact. Jamie, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm going to talk to you today briefly about severe weather. To ensure uninterrupted safe service to protect our customers, employees and assets, we take severe weather from general manager down to the front line very seriously with the new Metro Integrated Command and Communication Centre right at the heart of that preparation and response. This winter, we've already seen and will continue to see various safety hazards in the form of rain, sleet, snow and ice. With all of this precipitation in its various forms, safety concerns can and do arise. For customers, Metro platforms, escalators, rail cars, and within the floors and on the surfaces of the buses, they can become wet and potentially lead to slip and fall hazards, as well as other safety risks. Here are some tips for safely navigating the system during the winter. First of all, plan extra time in your trip, as inclement weather can disrupt transit. For example, Metrorail generally operates in up to 6 inches of snow, but service changes may occur. Metrobus may operate on detours to avoid hills or floods and other safety hazards. Metro Access will modify service as roadway and walkway conditions require. Second, when navigating through rail stations, escalators, platforms, and bus hubs, watch your step, do not rush, and pay attention to weather conditions and wet floor signs that we may have put out. Number 3, use extra caution when walking on exposed surfaces, including parking lots, platforms, and bus stops. Never run for a bus or a train in these conditions, and if you're traveling with children, hold on to their hands. Number 4, report any unsafe conditions or concerns to Metro employees, whether that be your station manager or your bus operator, and stay informed during winter weather events with Metro alerts. For any additional information, you can see severe weather guidance on the WMATA Rider Guide at wmata.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Again, good morning, everyone. Before we begin today's executive committee meeting, I'll ask the board corporate secretary, Ms. Ellison, to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Smedberg.
Present.
Vice Chair McAndrew.
Here.
Lowe. Aye. Director Klein.
Present.
Director
Present.
Director Drummer.
Present.
Director Santos.
Present.
Alternate Director Helfer.
Present.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Now to our first order of business, we will approve today's agenda. If there are no objections from a committee member, we'll consider the agenda approved as presented. Does any committee member have any objections or comments? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. We have minutes from our December 14th meeting before us for approval. Are there any comments or objections to any of the minutes as presented? Hearing and seeing none, we'll consider the minutes approved as presented. We have 2 items on our agenda this morning. The first is to accept a report from the Inspector General and authorize its posting. And next, we'll receive an important update on progress implementing Metro's strategic transformation plan with a focus on digital modernization. First, we'll hear from the IG. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Smedberg, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity. Today we are asking that you accept our evaluation of contractor offboarding program. The IG's office did a look at how the various components of WMATA handle contractor offboarding. What we found was that while there are controls in place, there can be some improvements. There was no system-wide checklist, which was one of the recommendations we made. Management accepted all of our recommendations and agreed to, within about 6 months, get everything buttoned up. We want to thank management and the staff for working with us and the great work that the OIG's office did in this. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Any questions from a committee member? Comments? Anyone else? All right. Under the board's bylaws, the executive committee is responsible for reviewing and accepting the reports from the Inspector General. The committee has reviewed the following report: the evaluation of contractor offboarding process. Acceptance of this report constitutes the board's authorization to post it on the Inspector General's website, provided that the IG has conferred with the General Counsel and confirmed that any private or confidential information has been removed and or redacted in accordance with applicable law and WMATA policy. I would like to move approval of this item. Is there a second from a committee member?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Lowe. Now I'll ask Ms. Ellison to call the vote.
Chair Smedberg?
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew? Vice Chair Lowe?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. The report has been accepted and the Inspector General has been authorized to post it online.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next item is the update on the digital transformation under the WMATA's transformation plan. Good morning. Who's starting out? Kimmy?
Good morning, Committee Chair Smedberg and members of the committee and the board. My name is Kimmy Feldbauer, and I'm our Director of Strategic Transformation and Enterprise Collaboration. Back in February of 2023, when you adopted the Strategic Transformation Plan, one of our commitments was to provide regular updates on the plan as well as various initiatives across the organization that are delivering on our plan and contributing to Metro's organizational transformation. Today we are here to provide an update on the organization's digital modernization strategy. To be a world-class organization, modernizing how we operate, both service and internally, is critical to delivering on our commitment laid out in the Strategic Transformation Plan. As part of the development of Your Metro, the Way Forward, the transformation team partnered with what was previously known as IT and respective business units to identify what was needed across the authority from a technology and innovation perspective to deliver on our plan. Since then, we've onboarded our Chief Digital Officer, Judd Nicholson, to lead us forward in this space. Today's transformation update will be an overview on the progress we've made, as well as a proposed roadmap to advance digital modernization at Metro. So with that, I will hand it over to Judd.
Thank you, Kimmy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, members of the board, general manager, for the opportunity to brief on digital modernization. Before I get into the brief, I do want to acknowledge that the current budget situation, and while not reflected in the brief, the digital modernization strategy is working under our current funding model, and as we navigate funding opportunities, the roadmap for digital modernization strategy will evolve accordingly. As you see here on this slide, this is our strategic transformation plan, and one of the reasons we need a digital modernization strategy is to really activate this plan. The purpose of the digital modernization organization and that strategy is to support the ongoing modernization efforts and to activate the goals outlined in the STP. Activating the plan and bringing automation and tools that promote collaboration, drive operational efficiency, and improve safety. These modern tools streamline processes and asset management and maintenance, and ultimately driving efficiencies and cost savings. To build the technology strategy or the modernization strategy, we analyzed multiple diagnostics, which the board may have been aware of. We listened to many stakeholders, and I had one-on-one meetings with every SET member. Ultimately, what we heard was engaging with the department is cumbersome, data and digital tools are not easy or accessible, and the underlying infrastructure of the organization is not sufficient to meet our growing needs as an authority. With that input, we built a strategy based on 3 pillars. The first is to support and enable our customers and partner internally and externally. Enable and support the ongoing effort to deploy digital tools, which I'll explain later in the briefing. And fundamentally, to ensure a reliable, resilient, and secure foundation on which we can innovate. In order to support the digital modernization strategy, we built a year-long implementation plan. It's in 3 phases. The first phase is organization. We really needed to restructure and reimagine the digital modernization organization so that it aligned around functions and industry best practice, creating a better internal focus and accountability for the people in the organization, and to drive a culture that supports our primary mission, which is service. The second phase is a commitment to transparency. What we heard from stakeholders is they don't know what's going on, they don't know what the priorities are. So the next phase is looking at ongoing projects, implementing governance, a governance structure internal to the authority, and prioritizing how investments are made and streamlining processes. And the final phase is activation. Really, once we put the organization in place, launch our innovation cell, and monitor and measure to make sure that we're providing good service to the authority and to our external customers. As I mentioned, the first phase of the transfer or the digital strategy is organizational structure. We're well into this first phase and have targeted the implementation of the org structure by March 1st of this year. This slide represents the 2B organization, an organization that has appropriate spans and layers based on function. The first, I just want to point out a couple of things, and the first is a dedicated vertical and focus on service delivery. Streamlining processes of engagement, taking the friction out of day-to-day operations, and support to our internal customers, providing accountability to processes like onboarding and offboarding employees and contractors. The second is as a vertical and dedicated leadership that supports operations technology, building an organization that partners with our service leaders in the modernization that's already in progress. The third and final thing I would like to point out is a dedicated vertical and leadership around data management and AI enablement, as well as continuing to mature and strengthen our cybersecurity organization. And while we implement the organizational structure and move to provide more transparency and better engagement with the department, we'll continue to support the ongoing momentum of digital change across the authority. What I wanted to do is spend just a few minutes on that exact thing. We're closely aligned with customer experience, which you've heard in this brief, in the implementation of new displays across the system. This process is not only the forward-facing content displays, but we are also modernizing the content management system, reducing complexity in the infrastructure from 4 systems to 1. The outcome of this effort is more efficient, system-wide capability to give customers real-time information, whether that's in the regular course of service or any unplanned events. We're also working closely with rail operations and planning performance on the rollout of tablets to station managers. This untethers station managers from the booth and allows them to interact more directly with customers. It also replaces paper forms and manual data entry with a set of applications deployed on a mini iPad. Those applications include translation tools as well as MetroPulse to give customers real-time data. This pilot has been ongoing since December 4th. It not only saves money and adds efficiencies to the station manager's work, but a system-wide rollout will reduce paper usage by 300 sheets per day. Ultimately, the data is also readily available for operational analysis. It sets in place a scalable, agile platform that will be expanded to other frontline use cases across the authority. The last 2 things I'd like to highlight before I finish is 2 examples around modernization, which is the ERP project, as well as our ongoing use of drones. The ERP project is designed to modernize the financial and human capital system at the authority. Not only will that project see the implementation of industry best practices for financial management and workforce management, but it will also see the reduction of over 33 disparate systems across the authority onto a single Oracle Fusion platform. This brings better data management, increased process efficiency, and a major positive shift in user experience. And finally, the Office of Geomatics Survey Engineering within infrastructure has been using drones to improve structural inspections and aerial mapping with an eye towards improving incident response in the future. The use of drones has increased safety and reduced the cost of those traffic inspections. With a drone, there are no workers or pedestrians directly under the drone flight patterns. Additionally, there are ancillary safety improvements such as eliminating operator errors in the logistics of orchestrating traditional aerial inspections. A traditional hands-on inspection costs $7,000. An inspection using a drone to complement hands-on inspection costs half that, as well as dramatically reducing the safety, and the hazards presented to our employees. We're actively working to expand the scope and scale this project across the authority. Those are just a few examples of how the modernization strategy is continuing and will continue to enable transformation at WMATA. WMATA is on a digital modernization journey, not just in the implementation of modern tools, but in the empowering of a culture shift and looking at how modern tools can enhance the work we're all doing to support the authority in the region. The digital strategy we put in place and the plan changes we're putting in place will create an organization that can partner and support that journey, not only in its day-to-day implementation, but in ways that will scale strategically across the authority. Again, I thank you for the time and the opportunity and look forward to continued updates across our year of modernization and digital strategy, and I welcome your comments or your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholson. I gotta say, this presentation is really pretty incredible. And the amount of progress you and your team have made in a relatively short period of time in this area is truly remarkable. So thank you for that. Any questions from committee members? Sarah, Joe, Sarah, your hand's raised.
Yeah, just a quick question. This is great. As the chairman just said, the amount of progress being made on this is sort of overdue, and I'm really glad to see that you are moving in so many ways to improve these systems. One thing that wasn't mentioned is the shift eventually to open payments technology. Does that live within your, the organizational structure that you outlined, or is that in a different team?
It's a collaboration between my organization and performance and planning. They operate the FAIR system, and we're actively working on a plan on open payments, which it hasn't quite yet come to fruition, but we will be able to give some details a little bit later.
Okay, great. Just was wondering where that lies.
We are working on it, absolutely.
So is all of this other stuff, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Mr. McAndrew, any questions or comments?
None for me today, Chair.
Dr. Lowe.
Great work. You know, I think this presentation really undersells what's really happening here, which is that, many people who have been inside or outside WMATA for a long time have been talking about the need to do this basic stuff, like significantly reducing our reliance on paper as something that will decrease risk and increase safety. In the presentation, I think you also did do a good job of highlighting how this kind of IT modernization is also really about achieving transformative management efficiencies that are, of course they're long overdue, but they're very timely now. So I want to commend the general manager and the team for getting on top of this so quickly. I know that you haven't been here very long, and thank you for acting with urgency in order to take these steps.
Thank you.
Any other?
Just briefly, thank you. And I want to echo everything that everyone said, but especially thanks on behalf of customers in terms of real information and timely information in a way that is just easier to follow and understand. You know, I'm the liaison to the Rider Advisory Council and Committee, and you've come to visit with us, and I think this is something that they've continuously brought forth. So thank you very much.
Mr. Nicholson, could you just talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's really important. I think the collaboration between you and the communications team on some of those issues.
It is a very close collaboration with us and customer experience. On a daily basis, so across multiple fronts. So not only on the screens, but on the predictions, on what the screens say. And we're actually looking to do even more work with the Riders Advisory Group, because as we look to deploy a mobile app for WMATA, really engaging them in beta use and beta testing and functionality and things like that. So you'll see a lot more of that. But it is a very, very close collaboration, because ultimately my department works to serve each one of those operational units. And so lean very heavily on that leadership, whether it is customer experience or operations or safety or infrastructure, really helping us guide on what the priorities are, and that's where we focus our effort.
Mr. Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of comments. One, I appreciate the board recognizing Judd's leadership. You all know we were lucky to get Judd come from us from Georgetown University, where he really built an incredibly strong technology organization supporting, quite frankly, a very large institution that does a lot of things in this region. Judd is really showing leadership here and a team approach, and he's using the word service. And that's the part that I think is culturally so valuable inside. He looks at his role and his team as supporting Sarah, supporting Brian, supporting Andy, supporting that kind of mindset goes so far in an organization that used to be very siloed. And I think to your point, board member, this is a kind of muted presentation. We didn't want to, Judd could literally do 40 slides here. A good example is the station manager tablet. I went through a station the other day, and there's a station manager on a tablet doing translation for somebody, because so many variety of languages and people visiting or living in the DMV. He mentioned 300 pieces of paper. That's one form. That's 110,000 sheets of paper, and I can't remember how many actual different station manager forms were there. I think it was like 10 or 12 or something like that.
Can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
So you go from not only the paper part environmentally, you go to the cost part, and then to your point, the data management part, which really connects to what the NTSB in the report last week mentioned, which we believe we're doing a good job on, which is moving to the warehouse data analytics process. You can't do any of that with paper.
Somebody else is just
okay. The last part I want to highlight is this whole idea of around cost efficiency. This is such a topic we've been all talking about because of the budget, and everything from examining an elevated structure with a drone versus someone being out there having to do it. Yes, that has service impacts. Yes, that has safety impacts. But the cost of that is dramatic, and we're just really ramping that up. Mike Haas is here. He runs our power, all of our power structures. He's thinking through how to use drones in power duct banks to do inspections and things of that nature. You get into some of this stuff, we are really going to save an enormous amount of money over time by digitally modernizing as well and protecting our employees at the same time. So I just want to double down on that part. Our partners are challenging us rightly to be as cost efficient as possible, and I want them to know and the public to know every day that is a big focus. So it's not just like how do we get money to run trains and buses. We are trying to do this as safe and cost efficient as possible, and the tech part is actually a big weapon for us to do that. And so I just want to double down on that during this budget process of how much I think we think that there's value in that.
And that's what's eye-catching about this presentation and about this conceptually, that we're talking about a win-win that is actually more reliable and in the case of these drone inspections, more reliable and increases safety and reduces the cost of inspections, not just marginally, but by half. That's transformative.
Well, and even the customer experience, letting an opportunity for the station managers to get out of the booth with just simply having an iPad. And that would be great. All right, any other comments, questions? All right, thank you. And not to mention setting a new standard for safety contacts. All right, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it. All right, with no further business to come before the committee, we will stand adjourned. I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Letourneau to begin today's Finance and Capital Committee meeting. Mr. Letourneau.
Thank you, Mr. Spedberg. Good morning and welcome to the Finance and Capital Committee, and thank you for joining us. First order for business is to approve the agenda. If there are no objections, we'll consider the agenda approved as presented. Are there any objections by members of the committee to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Now to the approval of the minutes. We have minutes of our December 14th meeting. Are there any objections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, we'll consider those minutes approved as well. There's two items on our agenda today. The first is a continued discussion of the FY25 budget that the General Manager presented last month. Today, the committee will vote to take this budget, along with changes, all the proposed changes to Metro's fare and service, out to the public for comment. We'll have an opportunity today for board members to suggest any changes to the General Manager's proposed budget prior to us going out to public comment. And then in 2 weeks, the board will take a final vote on this package to solicit public opinion on the budget, along with associated changes to fare and service. Beginning in mid-February, for about 4 weeks, the public will have the chance to weigh in and tell us what they think of those proposals, and the board will be having work sessions on the budget. As a reminder, on going out to public hearing, in order for the board to consider something as part of the final budget, it needs to be generally part of the public hearing docket, particularly if it results in a fare increase or changes to the level of service. I think all of us, as has been said previously, are not necessarily supportive of this budget that we're working on. Unfortunately, it's where we are as a result of the need to have a balanced budget, but it is not where we hope to be at the conclusion of the process, and we continue to work with our partners to ensure that it's not so. Nevertheless, because of timing and our process, we do need to move forward. The second item on the agenda is our annual report on Metro's environmental sustainability in FY 2023, consistent with our transformation plan. So we'll take up the authorization for public hearings on the FY 24 operating and capital budgets, and I will turn it over to staff. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Yetunde Olumide, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. I'm joined by Sarah Maya, the Chief Customer Experience and Engagement Officer, and Tom Webster, the Chief Planning and Performance Officer. This morning, we will present and discuss the request to seek authorization to conduct public hearings and related public engagement activities for the proposed FY25 operating budget and FY25 to 30 capital improvement program. Metro's strategic transformation plan guides our mission to deliver modern, world-class transit system. It was implemented in FY23. This long-term strategy directs our day-to-day decision-making. Without a sustainable funding source, the FY25 proposed budget presents an unrecognizable Metro due to the unprecedented service cuts necessary to close the operating deficit. Metro is using all internal levers to eliminate the $750 million proposed operating budget deficit through drastic service and administrative cuts, fare increases, preventive maintenance transfers, and cost-saving initiatives. Key service and fare changes include elimination of service on 67 bus lines and reduced service on 43 bus lines, service reductions for Metro Access, major frequency reductions on Metro Rail, and fare increases. Future state of good repair and modernization needs are negatively impacted due to the funding constraints in the 6-year capital improvement program. Ms. Sarah Maya will now discuss public engagement.
Thanks, Yetunde. So we have two goals here, right? One is to inform our community members and stakeholders about these key budget proposals. We're also looking to drive feedback via an online survey and both in-person and virtual public hearings. We're going to be completing a communications plan that has both organic tactics as well as paid advertising based on requirements that are outlined in our compact and by the FTA and other government bodies. Also working through best practices and what we've learned over the last several years executing successful fare hearings and budget hearings. Planned tactics include print and digital signs in both Spanish and English posted on our buses, in Metro Access vehicles, and in our rail stations. Digital media, that includes social media posts and non-English publications using banner ads as well. Public hearings, we're looking at 5 instances to provide testimony, both in person and online across each jurisdiction. The survey, which will be available in many languages, will be the primary source of feedback that will incorporate about 95% of all comments. We will have staff handing out information in our rail stations, but at because of our current budget limitations, that outreach staff will not be contracted. It will all be serviced by in-house staff. Primary reference points will be the website. That will be the primary source of information for the languages that you'll see listed on this in this information on this deck. The brochure, as I mentioned, will be handed out by our ambassadors at both bus and rail stations. We'll also have a stakeholder toolkit, which will be posted on our website that will provide community partners with information in multiple languages. So, do you want to do this?
Thank you, Sarah. So we're seeking the board's authorization to conduct the public hearings and related public participation activities for the proposed FY25 budget and 6-year CIP. In December, we discussed the GM's proposed budget. This month, we notified Metro employees of the hiring freeze, which took effect on January 8th. Today, we're requesting board authorization to conduct the public hearings on the budget. In April, Metro will finalize our service plan schedule and will submit our final FY25 budget to the board for its approval. So that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to discuss and answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, let's go ahead and get the item on the table, and then we can entertain questions, comments, and amendments. But I will go ahead and move authorization for public hearing on the FY24 operating capital budgets. Is there a second from a member of the committee?
Second.
Oh, sorry, I should say FY25.
Yep.
There we go. Typo. Seconded by Ms. Santos. All right. Questions, comments, discussion, and amendments. This is a committee of the whole, actually, since we're talking about the budget. So any member of the board is free to weigh in. And we start with Dr. Lowe.
Yeah, I have three things. I'll start first with just a comment on our public process. I visited the MTPD Youth Advisory Committee in December, and there was an incredible turnout. There were 75, 100 kids there, something like that. It was a huge group. None of them knew that WMATA has a $750 million budget deficit. They all thought, WMATA has tons of money. Why are we even charging fares? I think that we should visit that group and share with them our budget realities, and we should ask them to help us get the word out. I hear the kids are spending a lot of time on TikTok these days, to let them know what's at stake. I think it's important that they know. I think that they need that information in order to make their own choices, and that they can also be important voices in our community as a whole. So I would be happy to. I'm not trying to create yet another thing for someone else to do. I would be happy to help. That said, I also have two amendments that I would like to introduce to the general manager's budget as proposed. So I'd like to start by highlighting that over the past few years, in the many conversations about the future of transit, but also, writ large, but also about how we do things here at WMATA, a theme that has consistently emerged is that in our own passenger surveys and in the industry as a whole, we generally aren't hearing passengers ask for lower fares. We're hearing them ask for frequent, reliable service. And I want to make sure that we are hearing that and carrying those values forward in this budget proposal, given that it includes so many cuts to service. I think that we need to be as aggressive as possible in the options that we give ourselves for the next fiscal year's budget. With that in mind, I move to amend the resolution, authorization for public hearings on proposed fiscal year 2025 operating budget and FY 2025 to 2030 Capital Improvement Program, which will be held coincident with Title VI Equity Analysis and Public Participation on Service and Fare Changes as follows. Attachment D, paragraphs 1 and 2, amended to provide for a 25% increase in all rail, bus, and metro access fares, including past products as follows. Attachment D, paragraph 1, which you guys can refer to, it's on a piece of paper you have, amended and restated as follows. All Metro Rail and Metro Bus fares proposed to increase by 25%, resulting in a Metro Rail fare range from $2.50 to $7.50 on weekdays, a $2.50 late night weekend Metro Rail flat fare, and a $2.50 base Metro Bus fare. The Metro Access fare cap is currently twice the base fare. As a result of the proposed base fare change, the Metro Access fare cap would also increase by 25% to $5. In addition, delete the fares and fees table attached to attachment D and replace with the fares and fees table that you guys have in the attached amendment before you.
Okay, amendment is made. Is there a second? Oh, seconded by Chair Smedberg. Discussion on the amendment. Would you like any further opening, Dr.?
I've said what I have to say.
Okay, any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the Board Secretary will call the roll.
Chair Letourneau?
Aye.
Vice Chair Klein?
Aye.
Mr. McAndrew?
Aye.
Ms. Santos?
Yes, aye.
Mr. Smedberg?
Aye.
Mr. Drummer?
Aye.
Dr. Helfer?
Aye.
Dr. Lowe?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. And you had a second amendment.
I do have a second amendment. We've heard a lot from the general manager about this phrase, service optimization. And that's a big word, and it's taken me a while to wrap my head around what the general manager was really trying to communicate through that. I have come to realize that there are times, frankly, where maybe what is technically a service cut just makes sense and is something that we should do for operational or other reasons. But there are also places where it's relatively low cost to expand service. And so service optimization means that we can, within the resources that we have, make cuts where it makes sense to do so, but also potentially increase service where it makes sense to do so. I hope that we can approach the spirit of making the cuts that we need to, while also trying to find the places where we really can do more for a very reasonable cost as we think about the service plan for next year. I will say for the district, closing at 10 p.m. is going to be a non-starter. And so I know that many other people have other service cuts in here that are non-starters, and we're going to have to talk about all this. What we need to make sure for the docket is that we have the options right now that we need on the table to work towards a final solution. So this amendment is about creating an option that I want to explore with this board as a group. I move to amend the resolution, authorization for public hearings on proposed fiscal year 2025 operating budget and FY 2025 to 2030 capital improvement program, which will be held coincident with Title VI equity analysis and public participation on service and fare changes as follows. Attachment C, proposed Metro Rail service changes, paragraph 3, amended and restated as follows. Operating hours, 3A, decrease hours of operation, close the rail system at 10 p.m., 7 days a week. Or 3B, keep existing rail system hours and open earlier and close later on weekends. Open the rail system at 6 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. Close the rail system at 2 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays.
All right, amendment is made. Is there a second? Seconded by Chair Smedberg. Any further comment, Dr. Lowe, on your amendments? Any further comment from a member of the board, Chair Smedberg?
Thank you. I seconded this, and I think we should put this on the table so we can discuss it. But I personally think the earlier opening, for me personally, is more of a priority, I think, for the system, particularly in light of the fact we service now, three airports, two directly, one, sort of indirectly, but it gets people to where they need to go. And people working in this region now, need that kind of service as we're looking at other changes to the system. So, but I think it's really great to put this on the table and put it out there for for discussion.
That's a fair point.
Yep.
Any other members of the board? So I'll just say on this, so staff will prepare an analysis that will look at issues like track availability for maintenance, which is something that we've discussed here, any potential impacts on that, as well as hopefully make a recommendation if we were to do one of these, what the most beneficial would be to the greatest number of riders on the system. Is that how you would interpret the amendment?
Staff will prepare ridership, revenue, and overall impact. I will say early, we do believe, and we've been talking about this for a while internally, that from a maintenance point of view, we believe we could support both staying late open 2 hours, because the Friday, Saturday night, and the earlier Saturday, Sunday morning. Probably the data, the early look, I think is closer to what the chairman said, that the morning would induce more trips and provide probably a higher level of overall equity and economic opportunity. But we will do that deep analysis. Obviously, it does matter too what the fare policy is and other service elements. But the uniqueness now is also we have the 24-hour bus system in DC, funded through our partners at DC. So that actually would change some of the previous analysis on late night and early, because now there's connectivity to the bus system. So, but we will take, if the board moves forward this amendment, we will go in and dig through all of that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Oh, yes.
I want to say I appreciate the point the general manager made, and my ask to staff would be that we don't need to wait until after we've got the public comment. We had a great presentation at the Safety and Operations Committee on roadway worker access protection last year. Let's follow that up with, let's hear where we are on state of good repair, where we are in terms of our process for access to track. And I, of course, defer to what the staff has to say about where we are on that and what is possible. Let's learn more as soon as possible.
Yeah, thank you. Andy Off, our Chief Infrastructure Officer, is queued up in February to come to the board and go through not only our multi-month but multi-year track access, so our state of repair and capital program, to talk about things that support the Purple Line with red line shutdowns, second entrance of Crystal City as an example, plus our overall renewal program. So Andy has a very deep, and one of the things we talked about the board, we believe we want to give you a longer look ahead and a public longer look ahead than historically has happened here at Metro, so you can see months and multi-year in advance. And so we can balance all of these things.
Thank you.
Okay. Board Secretary will call the roll.
Chair Letourneau?
Aye.
Vice Chair Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Andrew? Ms. Santos?
Aye.
Mr. Smedberg?
Aye.
Mr. Drummer?
Aye.
Dr. Helfer?
Aye.
Dr. Lowe?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Okay. Any other amendments or comments from members of the board? Ms. Helfer?
I have two things. So thank you. Question, Sarah, I think maybe for the customer experience group, you talked about reaching, diverse audiences. An experience in the region is, at least from my experience, is the online tools don't always work. People won't come to us. And I appreciate that you're going to be out giving out information. Is there an opportunity to also be on site and gather information at that same time in real time as a pop-up kind of opportunity, or QR codes? And another opportunity might be to really, I'd say all of us call on every nonprofit, every stakeholder, every trusted partner in the region to help us reach people with limited English, speaking other languages, people that are living in low-income housing. Our ridership is diverse. And so I just hope we will do more than just push people to the online and the public hearings where they have to come to us. So that's just one idea.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
And then the second piece is, I know that in the budget proposal, there's a proposal on Metro access beyond 3/4 of a mile to think about reducing that, and just interested in, what we're doing to understand other jurisdictions and also other funding opportunities beyond 3/4 of a mile.
Thank you, Board Member. We will be doing some benchmarking and some comparison analysis, and we'll be happy to share that with the board as part of this process.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Then we will, Board Secretary will call the roll on the package as amended.
Chair Letourneau,
Aye.
Vice Chair Klein,
Aye.
Mr. McAndrew, Mr. McAndrew,
Joe, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Aye.
Ms. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Smedberg,
Aye.
Mr. Drummer,
Aye.
Dr. Helfer,
Aye.
Dr. Lowe.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your work. We'll see you back soon. Okay. So the last item on our agenda is our FY23 Annual Environmental Sustainability Reports. Some of the same staff upstairs stays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board committee. Again, I'm Tom Webster, Chief Planning and Performance Officer. We are pleased to be here this morning to present our annual report on environmental sustainability. I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Sustainability, Rachel Healy, to run through the presentation.
Thank you, Tom, for the introduction, and thank you, board members, for your time. You may all remember that we came to you in July and provided the board an overview of sustainability at Metro and updates on several of our initiatives. Today, I'm honored to have the opportunity to present to the board Metro's first environmental sustainability annual report under the new strategic transformation plan. So the sustainability goal in Metro's strategic transformation plan includes both financial and environmental sustainability objectives that drive responsible use of resources and maximize the total return on investment of Metro to the region. In adopting environmental sustainability goals, the board highlights the value that of Metro in reducing the region's emissions and improving the region's air quality and health. This slide provides a summary of Metro's environmental sustainability metrics. You will see in the green bar our overall metric, regional emissions avoidance. This helps track our impact on reduced travel-related emissions in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. Emissions reduction is in many ways one of the most impactful environmental sustainability outcomes that we generate for the region. And our emissions avoidance impact increases when we provide service that results in increased ridership and when we become more efficient in our own operations. We also have metrics in the white section of the table to measure the efficiency and sustainability of our operations. Today, I'll start with an update on the emissions avoidance metric, then follow up with updates on the two metrics that help track Metro's progress towards decarbonization of our own operations, and provide updates. And there are some updates on the remaining metrics that don't have plus signs next to them, and they're included in the appendix for your information. But overall, for these metrics, we can see that we are trending in the right direction, right? All of these metrics track long-term in incremental progress that we can see over years rather than over months or quarters, which is why we will be presenting annually to you. And that continued progress on these metrics and the benefits that are associated with them for the region are all at risk if service is cut due to close the funding gap. So I just want to remind everyone that transit and metro are essential to a sustainable region. More people riding transit is key to meeting the region's sustainability goals. Every transit trip fosters a healthy region and prevents greenhouse gas emissions by reducing travel-related carbon emissions. So what does that mean, right? Sounds like a lot of words. So think about an example. Say everyone here was to go to an event, and we all took separate vehicles to get there. This requires a lot of energy, produces pollution, and takes up a lot of road space. And when people carpool in a bus or a train together to that event, then they're using less energy and create less pollution, which is more efficient. It's a real simple example. Hopefully it's relatable. Transit also promotes equity, environmental stewardship, economic prosperity, and social well-being. So our regional partners are doing a lot of really good work on sustainability and climate, and Metro supports that. They've set ambitious goals, including aggressive emissions reduction, significant increases in transit walking and biking, and an overall reduction in vehicle miles traveled. All these goals cannot be met without transit and Metro in the region. Metro is already delivering emissions reductions to the region and its residents. In fiscal 2023, Metro prevented more than 78,000 metric tons of emissions. And that's equivalent to the carbon that would be absorbed by a forest, about twice the size of Washington, D.C., or the emissions from about 200 million miles driven by an average gasoline-powered vehicle. As Metro ridership is returning, a positive impact has been growing. And we know that frequent, reliable transit is essential to meeting those ambitious climate goals we were just reviewing. This graph up here shows the potential percent change in avoided emissions, both with and without funding of Metro. With funding, Metro's emissions reduction benefit grows every year. Full funding allows us to continue to provide a level of service that continues to support and grow transit ridership. Without funding, drastic service cuts to close the funding gap would result in more people taking cars, sitting in traffic, and releasing pollutants into our air. This would prevent the region from reaching its sustainability and transportation emissions target. So in the previous slides, I was talking about regional emissions reductions, and now we're going to talk a bit about Metro's operations that support this overall metric. The Strategic Transformation Plan sets a target to decarbonize our operations by 2050. And to that end, Metro is tracking the reduction of carbon that we emit per mile of service that we provide. Metro's carbon emissions per mile have been decreasing for nearly a decade. And our progress to date results from both adopting clean energy sources and investing in energy efficiency with associated cost savings. Getting to the 2050 target will require continued investments in energy efficiency, transitioning our fleets to clean fuels, and cleaning our electricity supply. Metro has a goal to reach 100% clean electricity by 2033. And we've already begun this transition. As of fiscal 2023, we have already reached 35% renewable electricity, meaning your ride is getting greener. Metro uses a lot of electricity to provide efficient transit service to the region. Almost a billion kilowatt hours every year. Because we're so big, the way that we engage with the energy market actually matters. We've been doing so strategically to control costs and support the region's clean energy transition. One example of how we're engaging in the market is the way that over the past couple of years, Metro has worked with the federal GSA to secure energy contracts in Maryland and the district. And by partnering with GSA, we've been able to secure favorable pricing, lower administrative costs, and meet renewable energy requirements. Our approach to 100% clean electricity will be multi-pronged. There are three ways Metro is approaching the transition to clean energy. On the left of the slide, you can see the example that we just talked about, where Metro is purchasing electricity from the grid in 3 to 5 year supply contracts, and then combining those with renewable energy certificates to produce green power. Up on the upper right-hand side, we have the investing in on-site renewables to directly power operations, and that's what we're pursuing at Northern, Bladensburg, and Cinderbed Bus Garage. In the lower right-hand corner, as the clean energy market continues to change rapidly, we're tracking evolving policies and possibilities, and so that's the section over here. And we're going to identify and pursue strategic opportunities as they arise. For example, renewable energy sourcing that might be more local, or 24/7 carbon-free electricity. So, Metro has several opportunities to drive regional sustainability forward through regional partnerships, where we're prioritizing transit, walking, and biking to reduce vehicle miles traveled. Examples of this include transit-oriented development and bus priority lanes. Through provision of quality service that builds on investments we've already made in transit. This includes better bus network redesign, all-day and all-week frequent service, and modernization of our operations, including transition to cleaner fuels and enhancing energy and cost efficiency. Examples of this are the lightweighting and aluminum choice that we've made with the 8000 series rail cars, and investments in on-site solar. So all of this takes partnership and funding. And in Metro, I think the region has both an engaged partner and a proven tool that has the capacity to help the region meet its carbon reduction and sustainability goals. And we can do this together with sufficient investment from our partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation, and a good reminder both of the stakes of the budget discussion and the fact that I think sometimes we forget, even with diesel buses, 50 people on a diesel bus is a heck of a lot more fuel efficient than 1 or 2 people in a car. Comments? Kind of just work our way down. Dr. Lipp.
I thought that the metaphor of the city as a forest was very poetic, and thank you for that. That's it.
Santos.
Just a question. Great presentation, first of all. Very clear. I appreciate hearing in detail what your team does. Just a question. So it's clear that there's been movement towards savings in terms of emissions. Could you speak to, just given the budget context, what are the cost implications of? So some people who may not be familiar with the trade-offs between renewables and standard sources of energy may be concerned that it is more expensive to be shifting to renewables. Can you just speak to that for a moment, please?
Sure. For shifting future, current, what is your?
It's just a question about the cost implications of shifting to renewables.
All right. So, so right now, the renewable energy certificates that we receive in order to green our power, right? It's baked into our current supply contract, right? And we did this in coordination with the GSA. It was the same percentage that you would get if you were one of the federal agencies that went out at the same time, including the Department of Transportation. So that, it's baked into the price, but it's about 1% of the cost of that contract. So it really is a very minor cost addition.
So just to make sure that I'm clear, you're saying that the cost of shifting more towards renewables, it's de minimis cost. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
In this case, it was de minimis cost. Every time you go out to the market, the energy market is changing very rapidly, and I wouldn't go there.
Rachel, I just have a quick question. You had on one of the slides, you look at these 3 to 5 year contracts. With whom do you negotiate with exactly? Is it the Dominions and Pepcos, or do you use an agent to help, sort of search the best opportunities? How does that work exactly?
So
I've always been curious about
yeah,
that.
sure. So the Dominions and the Pepcos, we've got sort of set supply costs that are associated with that in terms of delivery of
Or
the service.
Exelon, whoever
Right,
it is.
yeah, we've got the pipes
Whoever it
and
is, yeah.
the wires and all that. And then when we go out for supply contracts to buy the energy itself, what we've done in Maryland and DC is to partner with the GSA, and we go out for a reverse auction. And so when we go out together with the feds, we're going to the market with like just a very large chunk of energy that we're buying that really helps us secure.
So we get,
advantageous
25% of whatever it is. So are they the lead on that?
They do they host for all for a lot
everyone.
of different agencies. They host the auction and they take us on. We have a MOU so that we can be one of those folks who go out and auction at the same time.
And in addition to WMATA, are the localities, like a Dash Bus or Connector, Ride On, are they all part of that too?
I have not seen them there, though. That might be something that.
I was just curious.
Yeah, well, and especially as we electrify our
Right.
bus services
Try to
region, that's something
have
we need to
coordination
look at.
there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Good, great idea.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Anybody who's remote? Seeing none, then. There is no further business to become before the committee, and there are no further board activities today, so we are adjourned.
All right.